Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagan Sadrisham Tattvamasyadi Lakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahit Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Eruditions to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, and I'm giving you a summary of the introductory pages of Yoga Vasistha. The various causes of God's incarnation. The Puranic stories, why did God incarnate? And behind that, someone cursed God to incarnate. One highlighted story is of Vrinda, who was married to a demoniac king, Jalandhar. And Jalandhar came to a very high stage of demonosity. And began to attack Shiva himself. But Vrinda was such a devotee of Vishnu that the power of her devotion allowed Jalandhar to remain invulnerable. He couldn't be defeated. So, in divine plan, Lord Vishnu took up the task of deluding Vrinda and moving her away from her chastity. He himself appeared in the form of Jalandhar and distracted Vrinda until Vrinda realizes that she has been cheated by Lord Vishnu. So she curses him that may you incarnate as a human being and go through human sufferings. In turn, Lord Vishnu, there are different stories, but I'm giving you a summary of it, blesses her with all the curse she has given, that she would be representing herself in the form of Tulsi plant, holy basil. And no worship of Vishnu will be complete until that Tulsi dal, petals of Tulsi, are offered to him. The storyline is fascinating to the mind and people stay with it. But you have to understand a profounder meaning. Jalandhar is a tamasic ego. Feeling within you is the wife of that ego. As long as feeling continues to support that ego cannot be dismantled. So, in sadhana process, unawares, without knowing, your feeling becomes distracted by divine love. Love of ego is cheated. And it turns into love of God. Then what does happen? God descends to lift up the soul. Described like a curse. The devotee curses him. But it's not a curse, is only a kind of a allegorical statement. And this subtle message enters into ritual worship of Tulsi Dal offered in worshipping Lord Vishnu. With each Tulsi Dal, you are remembering the story of Vrinda and how the feeling becomes the Tulsi, TLC, tender loving care. Another aspect, the teachings of Yoga Vasistha are given by a teacher to his disciple. But Yoga Vasistha presents the teaching in a kind of a mystic chain. The teacher starts teaching the disciple, and while teaching, he introduces another teacher and how he taught disciple. And that goes on in a series. Just to give you some summarized, Sutikshana approaches Agasti for enlightenment. Agasti tells the following story. The story of Karunya, who became very proud and conceited because of academic knowledge. But his father turned his attention to vanity of his knowledge. With all the knowledge, he doesn't know what is that, knowing which all is known. And then Agniveshya, that's Agniveshya is the father. Karunya is the disciple. So Agniveshya begins to tell the story. He introduces the story of Suruchi, a heavenly Apsara, how she encounters a divine messenger. And in this series comes how Vasistha teaches Brahmagyan, knowledge of Brahman, to Rama. All these series are allegorical, and that's not so much important to hold on to the mind. I'm taking up the second section, called Sutra Patanika, which means introductory, just to let you know some data about Yoga Vasistha. Yoga Vasistha contains 22,000 verses, voluminous, and different teachers teaching disciples. They belong to different stages of spiritual ascent. Teachings given to a disciple who is ready to have changes to occur in the chitta, the unconscious. Teachings given to disciple who is aware of ego being his obstacle. Teaching given to a disciple who is aware that the feeling must become purified by removing raga, dvesha, attachment and hatred. Teaching applied to those who are deeply involved with body idea. I am the body. Therefore, same spiritual teaching goes in different levels. That's the meaning behind the series of teachers and disciples. Second section begins, and let me give you just a sample of the Sanskrit. Divi bhumau tatha kashe bahitascha me vibhu yo vibhati avabhasatma tasmai sarvatmane namah. Adorations to the self of all, who is in the heavens, in the sky, in the earth, within and without, and by whose light all these shine. In a very simple way to understand, divine self is like the sun. All illuminations that earth planet receives, how many variations of illuminations? Cloud shining, self that shines in the heavens, self that shines in the sky, the self that shines upon the earth, and this solar energy that permeates all. It's just allegorical. That sun is really very little compared to God. But it's allegorical. In the same way, in every stage of your awareness of your senses, awareness of your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, and all details, all these are emanating from the absolute self, like that shines like the sun, known as also detailed Satchidananda, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Sage Valmiki said, Aham bandho vimuktah syam iti yasyasti nishchayah natyantam agyo no tajyah sosmin shastre adhikaravan. God, Brahman, is the substratum of all the Mayayic projections of the world process. All experiences of the world are through thought waves of your mind. And thought waves create similar, speaking allegorically, same thing that happens in a cinema show. Just like frame after frame, pictures are projected on the screen. Though all the show is broken up images, yet to human eyes it's entertaining. You don't see the break. In the same way, all human experiences are based upon thought waves of your mind. And in between the thought waves, there is nothing but the absolute self. Neither too ignorant nor too wise. That's who is qualified for Yoga Vasistha. Neither too ignorant nor too wise. What does that imply? Let me give you. Ishavasya has mentioned a subtle point about purification of intellect. Function of intellect is two ways, to know or not to know. And both are needed in your practical life. But if you become aberratedly interested in either not to know or to know, you are creating a big obstacle for yourself. This becomes very not easy to understand. We can create confusion in human mind. But let me explain. If you have a lot of curiosity and tickles your intellect, you want to know everything. If you allow to lead your intellect to be satisfied in that area, that direction, you are simply piling up theoretical knowledge on your head. And it simply becomes a burden, and it doesn't help you at all. Now, having come to understand that, if you suddenly decide, I will stay dumb, do nothing. Stay absolutely, not know anything. I don't care. That puts you in a degraded state. You become dull with mind. You are not giving exercise to your mind. But under the guidance of sanamati, good intellect, good understanding, allow both to operate. There are certain things you don't have to know. You don't have to know who were you 3 incarnations back. So, exercise your ability to be ignorant. Likewise, exercise your ability for knowledge, what to know and what not to know. When this aspect is corrected, then intellect goes through a transformation, intuitive intellect. That's what is called real knowledge, the knowledge that leads you to liberation. The aspirant who has studied Pūrva Rāmāyaṇa with devotion as the first step, I have already introduced that point to you. Valmiki wrote first the story of Rama. It's called Pūrva Rāmāyaṇa. If you have read that story, that you become highly prepared to go after what type of knowledge did Rama receive to enable him to realize that he was incarnation, to realize the self. And all that knowledge that Vasistha gave to Rama, that becomes the topic, volumes of Yoga Vasistha. And it's called Uttar Rāmāyaṇa. Uttar means after first Rāmāyaṇa was presented, this is the end, culminating aspect of Rāmāyaṇa. Following the storyline, sage Valmiki is relating this to his disciple. Having composed the Pūrva Rāmāyaṇa, I offered it to my disciple Bharadwaja, just as the ocean presents its gems to their seekers. The wise Bharadwaja recounted the story of the Rāmāyaṇa before the Creator, Brahma, seated in a forest in the Sumeru mountains. All this allegorical. Brahma, the Creator, being highly pleased, told Bharadwaja to ask for any boon that he liked. At this Bharadwaja said, O Lord, you are the master of the past, present and future. Please present to me the means by which people in the world may become free from all miseries and sorrows. And Brahma said, hasten to sage Valmiki, your guru, and request him to compose Uttar Rāmāyaṇa. That's Yoga Vasistha. It will serve as a bridge to take the aspirants across the ocean of the world process. So eager was the Creator for the work of Yoga Vasistha that he accompanied Bharadwaja to the ashram of sage Valmiki. And having commanded the sage to complete the work of Yoga Vasistha, he vanished, just as a wave is withdrawn in the ocean. Allegorical story, the implication is Brahma is the cosmic mind, and the composition of sage Valmiki is inspired by that cosmic mind. In section 3, I'm giving highlights of the story and avoiding too much of the detailed stories. Adopting the example of Sri Rama, please explain to me the gradual stages leading to the state of liberation in life, so that I may experience supreme bliss. That's the style of presenting scriptures. That is, in the beginning you are given a little synopsis of the highest knowledge that you are going to be given through the scripture, through the great work. So here is a little synopsis of Yoga Vasistha. As long as the world phenomena do not disappear by the realization that all this is false, so long the spiritual knowledge is not firmly rooted in one's heart. Easily said, but you have to go into deep understanding by reflection. aided by satsanga and your integral yoga practice in daily life. You have to come to the grip of understanding that the world you are experiencing is based on your nervous system and your brain floating in your skull. No matter how fascinating this world, no matter how real it may seem to be, how amazing history and geography and astrology, astronomy and all that, no matter how much all that, all this is being spilled out by the Google of your nervous system. Nowhere in this storyline there is absolute truth. What is that which does not depend upon your nervous system? What's the reality, the source, the foundation? The name of that is pure consciousness. That again you are using words in an allegorical way. So until you become deeply aware, not theoretically, profoundly, that all your experiences in three planes, in the plane of physical reality, in the plane of your sentiments and feelings, in the plane of your understanding and your ego. All these planes, they are elaborations of Maya, cosmic illusion. There is no reality, absolute reality in this. There is another story, turning your attention to the practical reality that applies to your soul. Your soul has to evolve through all this in such a way that you become endowed with intuitive intellect. The intellect that realizes, recognizes the self as the only reality. And all these emanations of the self are in the realm of Maya. When that realization becomes clear, you are liberated. And that's the purpose of your life. The purpose of your existence is not to stay in illusion. But we continue to be fascinated by the power, the pleasure, and the glory of the earth and cycle of birth and death if your mind is fascinated by the world process. And you couldn't find any other goal than just going into the world and repeating the same experiences again and again. Because in each time you are born, you go through childhood, growing process. You stay young for a while, but then you begin to age. And then you go through the whole process of dying. You face enormous psychological struggles. And while facing all that, there are times when you have kind of a sense of fulfillment. That you were born poor, but now you are a billionaire. Behind that is a tremendous illusion. So, profound wisdom has two aspects. All that you experience is unreal. Another aspect, all that you experience is a manifestation of the real. It is God who is expressing through all you experience. God is expressing as the blue sky, through your eyes. God is expressing as simple flowers. God is expressing as a breeze, as all things of this world, and I don't have time to repeat them. O sinless Bharadwaja, this world is false. This is not a religion that wants you to believe. It is a rationality. It appears to exist like colors seen in the sky through a defective vision. Just again, to bring to your mind how much illusion is there. You look at the sky, write poetry about it, but the sky is not there. You are looking at immense vastness. You lie down on the earth, oh, how restful am I. But the earth is constantly moving like a spacecraft. So crafty that you can't even know it. These are only these little things I'm telling. Look at yourself and become so deluded by how you look until X-ray vision comes. And we are surprised. This is the way I look. I was not a Shiv Gada. And that's from one point of view, just a broad point of view. All is illusion. Now, another point. Your experiences are based on your vasana, subtle desire. Same object or same person is viewed in different ways through different minds, based on the vasanas of the mind, subtle desires of the mind, subtle impressions. Therefore, though you think that you are going after what you want, in reality you don't know what you want. You are going after a mirage. 3 types of illusions grip human mind. Samichinatva bhavana. First type of bhavana, that objects will give you happiness. Vastutva bhavana. Ishtatva bhavana. Samichinatva bhavana. Vastutva bhavana, the objects are real because I touch them, I scratch them, and I know they are real. That's what they do even in dream. Am I dreaming? They scratch the... Get a scratch, it's real. Called Vastutva bhavana. And that's complete illusion. Next is Tattva bhavana. You live in the world for acquiring something. Your ishta, the desirable object is here in this world and you have to attain it. And then you go on running from one object to another because you are never sure. Your desirable object goes on changing. To a child, desirable object to have a best toy. To a student, desirable object to have the best books that will make him pass his examination. I'm joking, but the simple way to explain. To a business person, desirable is how to multiply his money. And so forth. And then the illusion that you worked hard and you have grabbed the object that you want. It's called Samichinatva bhavana. A diamond necklace that was far away in a market Now it has come to your house. And you have put it well, so safe, that you are constantly watching over it, just like a cat watches over a mouse. So this is the predicament of the world process. To majority of people, there is no other choice. This is the world. But if you are led by good karmas, you develop that inquiring mind. What is the goal of life? Is it only to go on tumbling from one birth to another? Of course, the most majority of people, even the idea of tumbling doesn't arise. This is all that you have. A life of 70, 80, 90, 100, and so forth. That's all. Without the aid of a scripture such as this, people are led to fall from one illusory knowledge to another, presented by so many fictitious writings on spiritual matters. Again, turning to spiritual study, that itself is not easy. Nowhere in the world. People go after religion, study certain books, and they join certain sectarian type of teaching. And they end up with a perverted mind, with a very stony heart. I know this is the way God means. Those people, how miserable they are, who don't believe the way I believe, with such clear head. Let me be kind to them. Why? How can you be kind? Force them to follow what is right. They find there is kind of a compassion in their heart. Someone is taking wrong medicine, you force a person, give him right medicine. That type of idea enters, and they interpret it as their good feeling, their religious feeling. They are more dear to Allah or dear to God. That's given a very tamasic type of knowledge. But even in positive type of knowledge, people wander a long process. They become drawn to, you should only study Gita. I say, no, Rāmāyaṇa. No, Bhagavad Purana. Worship only Shiva. No, Vishnu. But all that is a result of studying so many things without a proper guru. Again, guru term is not easy to understand. Proper guru. Every sect has a guru. But every guru is not exactly teaching what. In other words, every guru is not real guru. By adopting such false teachings, one cannot obtain liberation even in 1,000 years. Complete eradication of the vasanas is the true state of moksha, liberation. He alone can realize this state, who is free from the impurity of avidya, ignorance. Now you are being given a little insight into vasanas. Vasanas are subtle desires. They control your conscious mind. Things you enjoy, which are favorable to your vasanas. Things you hate because your vasanas are not in harmony with those objects. Vasana is of two types, pure and impure. Impure vasana is the cause of rebirth. But pure vasana leads to the cessation of the wheel of the world process. Vasana comes in two categories, Shubha, Ashubha. If you develop Shubha vasana, that's the project of satsanga and the project of your integral yoga in daily life. That's what you are creating, a change in your unconscious, promoting Shubha vasana. For understanding Ashubha vasana, let me give you some details. Ashubha vasanas are also known as Klishta vasanas. Vasanas that create or bring about painful experiences. And there are 5 points in understanding that. Kleshas. Ignorance, that's the source. Out of ignorance arises egoism, called asmita. Out of egoism, there develop two erroneous movements, raga and dvesha. Raga, attachment. Things please you and you become attached to them, want to hold on to them. Things don't please you, want to remove them. And that creates a terrible turmoil in the mind. Because in the morning, what you don't like, by the evening you like it. And last of the kleshas is called abhinivesha. Led by raga, dvesha, attachment, hatred, the soul enters into bondage of karma. And as a result, the soul works through the body for a certain period of time. In other words, your bodily existence is for soul's purpose. And soul is not so much in love with your body. Soul is selfish. You kick the body where its karma will not be fulfilled through that body. So that's called abhinivesha klesha. Everyone feels a terrible dread when one hears the name death. Nothing can be more dreadful, frustrating and shocking. And yet, no one can stay without it. It's like brought out in a Buddha story. A mother lost her baby, taking the dead body of her son, she carries to Buddha. Says, "O enlightened sage, you are all powerful. This is my only child, my piece of my heart. Can't you breathe life into him?" And Buddha says, "I will gladly do that. But if you could do a little thing for me, you must know I spice of this story. Just bring me few tablespoonfuls of mustard seeds. But when you go to any family for the mustard seeds, remember, get those mustard seeds only in the family where nobody has died." Now she goes and, "Can you give me just little mustard seeds?" people are hospitable. They say, oh yes, come. She says, please, just let me know, did anybody die? I said, yes, my forefather, my grandfather, great-great-grandfather, and presently my father has cancer. Thank you, she said. Goes into another fact. she hears so many other family says, Dad, my 5-year-old son, beautiful son, got into an accident. Snake bit. I'm making up this story. So she hears such pathetic news breaking through every house. Her mind becomes drenched with pathos. Comes to Buddha, oh Buddha, dead are many, living are few. Please initiate me into your religious order. And with this, I'll conclude. Om Trayambakam Jamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarkum Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyamamritat Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om